Mr. Ross for 5 minutes.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. And Governors, thank you both for being here. This is very insightful for me, especially in my home state of Florida, where we are also going through some of the similar exercises that you all have gone through. It's interesting because when we look back at the history of collective bargaining, especially with public sector unions, it was Franklin Delano Roosevelt and both President John F. Kennedy who did not feel that there should be collective bargaining or there should be public sector unions. So being here today on this issue, I think, shows the evolution of this and why it's such a crucial issue, especially in light of the debt and deficits that each state in this country is facing. The Federal Government in the Office of Personnel Management has published consecutively for years up until 2008, a study of the amount of time that was spent by union employees on official time. The last time this was published was in 2008, and it showed that Federal Government union employees spent 3 million hours of official time to engage in union-related activities. This was a cost to the Federal taxpayers of about $120 million in 2008. Unfortunately, upon repeated requests by several congressmen and the Competitive Enterprises Institute under this President, we have not received a response from that. In your respective states, and I will start with you, Governor Walker, do you keep track of any official business or union business done on official time?
Yeah, I wouldn't have the numbers off the top of my head, but I know both at the state level and we see the same thing at the local level. We certainly saw that when I was the Milwaukee County Executive. And it's an interesting cycle because taxpayers in many cases are paying taxpayers money, which not only goes to workers, but in many cases then goes to government employee unions, who then use that money for political purposes, who then elect candidates, who then advocate for more government and higher taxes on the middle class. It's a vicious circle.
So Wisconsin does keep track of official time spent on union activities?
There's time, for example, there's time at both the state and the local level that's designated that people who are employees of the government who are designated as union officials have to account for time that's taken and as part of their contracts. In many cases, we saw at the local level of the county the number of individuals who are on the payroll who are working for the unions.
Governor Shumlin, is it the same situation in Vermont?
It's not an issue in Vermont. Our public employees, unionized, work hard. And they work long days and long nights, and we are certain that that's what they're doing, and that's what they do with their time. You know, we're a small state where everybody knows what everyone's doing, and in Vermont, we work hard, and our public employees work just as hard as our private sector employees.
In Florida, we're deliberating now in the legislature, and something that was deliberated back when I was in the legislature there, what was known as a Paycheck Protection Act, and it would require that the employees make an affirmative acknowledgment and confirmation that they'll sign over a certain part of their paycheck to union dues instead of it just having taken out regularly. Is that something that has been entertained in either of your states, Governor Walker?
Yeah, that's in the legislation that I signed into law approximately a month ago. And the concept with that is, in the interest of workers, they should have the right to choose. If they want to have that money taken off, if they want to have to be a part of a union, and if they ultimately want to have the choice as to whether or not they give that money to that union or not, they should be the one that chooses it.
Governor Shumlin?
It hasn't been any significant part of the debate. You know, we're really, like Governor Walker, we're facing a tough economy and a tough budget challenge, trying to balance it. And thanks to the largesse of Congress, the last budget deficits for all we governors haven't really had to be dealt with because we got so much money from Washington. That's over, and we got to balance our budgets the old-fashioned way. So we're making tough cuts, tough choices, and I'm doing it by focusing on what matters, which is health care costs, corrections, and other areas where I have explosive growth. And I'm not worrying too much about union dues.
And accomplishing these objectives, whether they be pro-union or anti-union, whatever they may be, requires people to come to the bargaining table. It requires people to come to consensus or compromise. And one of the issues that we saw in Wisconsin was that there were senators on the Democrat side who left the state and failed to come to the table to address. And as a public official, as one who is elected, I take personal offense to somebody who abrogates their responsibility by not owning up to their obligations to make these decisions, as difficult as they may be. And so, Governor Shumlin, I would ask you, do you condone such activities where elected officials leave the state or abrogate their responsibilities to enforce their obligations as an elected official?
Well, I got to tell you, I got my hands filled dealing with the challenges that I'm facing in Vermont, and I don't comment much on what's happening in the other 49 states. I'm just focused on what's happening in Vermont. In Vermont, everyone is working together with lots of maple syrup to get tough things done.
Thank you. Governor Walker?
Yeah, obviously I have great concern. When I talk to factory workers over the last month or two, I pointed out if you walked off the job for 3 weeks, you wouldn't be working there anymore. I think that's pretty clear out there. So I think there's a real challenge, and obviously the individuals in those 14 Senate districts are going to decide whether or not that makes a difference long term. But you said something else about working together, and I believe in that. But I also believe more important than working together is people want results. And so in the beginning of this year, we worked together with Democrats and Republicans and one independent we have in the legislature. We passed some of the most aggressive job-creating legislation in the country. We showed that Wisconsin was open for business. But sometimes working together is a problem. In the past, Democrats and Republicans worked together, and they pushed the problem off to the future. And at some point, leaders, no matter what party they're in, have to stand up and say, we got to do something about it. And that's what we're doing here.
Thank you, and I yield back.